I'm Ashton Addison from Blockwest Capital for Investment Pitch Media, and today on the Crypto Coin Show we have Sasha Ivanov, the founder of Waves blockchain protocol. Sasha, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Hi Ashton, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Excited to dive into the growth of Waves, and a lot's happened in the cryptocurrency industry in the beginning of this November, about 1 year anniversary from the Bitcoin all-time high, and there's a lot to talk about. So before we dive into all the excitement in cryptocurrency, I'd love to get a refresher on where Waves is at right now and what your team is currently working on the protocol, and then we'll dive into all the details.
Yes, a short introduction. Waves is a very old chain for this nascent market. So we launched in 2016, even before Ethereum, so 6 years old. It's a generic level 1 chain, so it's not like some kind of Ethereum derivative. So it was built from scratch, and we are actually focusing now on governance issues, because we are seeing so many problems in crypto now related to governance. What is happening now actually has its roots in a poor governance, when there are centralized entities that can do whatever they want. There is one person who can decide what he does with the money of the exchange users. It's some kind of it's a bad situation, So, and the only way to resolve this is to come up with a better governance for crypto, because it's very strange when you deal with decentralized tokens in a very centralized manner, So I think the problem is governance, It's just becoming some kind of forex on steroids, because it's mostly about trading. So when I was younger, I traded forex a little, and this is some kind of advanced forex now, which has a wider appeal to people, because it's more accessible. But the idea is the same. It's mostly about trading, and there is very centralized parties who profit from it, who benefit from that. So I think it's wrong, and we have to work on the governance, and that's why we are focusing on new approaches to DAO, and we are launching this PowerDAO soon. And the idea is very simple, basically. If you're a decision maker, you have some skin in the game, so you have to stake some tokens if you make decisions. And if you're successful, if you meet the KPIs, you are rewarded. If you are not, you are being slashed. So that means that the token that you've staked are just taken from you. So you lose some funds that you staked. It's a very simple idea, but surprisingly, it hasn't been executed yet. So this is what we are trying to do, and I think it can work in crypto, and can maybe work even in the real world.
Great intro, Sasha, and you're right about the decentralized governance. I feel like it's very important, but a lot of the focus is on, when people get in, they see about trading and making money, and often people don't really care, if the level of decentralization of some of these projects, and we're seeing different blockchains have different levels of centralization. I feel like the example you gave there about having skin in the game and having the right economics built into the governance so that if you try to work against the system, it hurts you. I feel like Bitcoin is a good example of that, with the mining and trying to attack the system, and I don't know if it's the perfect picture of decentralization, but compared to some of the other blockchains that are clearly centralized, I feel like this is something that the principles of Bitcoin and of Waves and what you're trying to build with PowerDAO should be something that should become the norm across different decentralized blockchain protocols.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of governance, obviously this is super important, and having skin in the game. I feel like with the recent issues that have happened throughout this past couple weeks in cryptocurrency, the governance on centralized exchanges, there was a huge debacle earlier this year when people were handing their private keys to yield generating platforms that were Celsius and Voyager, and they went down, and people thought they learned their lesson. But now we're seeing the same thing happen over again with FTX, and it was almost an unthinkable situation on one of the biggest cryptocurrency exchanges that was supposed to be going through regulations all properly, all of a sudden was mishandling funds on the back end, and people are trusting these entities with their decentralized tokens, and all of a sudden it's all gone. I feel like this itself is a huge governance issue that, as we continue to grow towards more DeFi and decentralized finance, these issues won't be happening. Do you see, what are the main governance issues that you see with this situation and what's happened, and how can we solve that?
Basically, there is only centralized governance here, and the current situation is pretty ironic, I would say, because this is not a problem of crypto in a way, because this is a problem of traditional finance, because all those exchanges, they work according to more or less traditional finance rules. So you can borrow some funds using some collateral. You can trade with crazy leverage, but it's not about crypto. It's about traditional finance. People have been doing that in traditional finance for centuries, basically. It is somehow regulated now. So you have SEC that somehow controls the situation, and there is some regulation in TradFi, but so it's not a problem of crypto somehow. It has no connection to blockchain technology. It has a connection to basically uncontrolled trading that was that existed in real world maybe a century ago, when there was no SEC. So it's not even about crypto, which is funny, So we just trade crypto on centralized platforms, and there is one person who makes all the decisions. So it's what's it got to do with crypto? Actually, it's not related to crypto. It's related to all those old school ways to trade and to run your hedge funds or. So this is something that has to go, and the idea of crypto actually was to make those things obsolete, but somehow they are still with us, and actually they're becoming more and more important. So I think it's time to think about what crypto is about. Actually, it's not about trading per se. It's about changing the ways we interact, more or less, So it's not even about finance, So it's a very important part of crypto finance, but crypto is much more, It's about the ways we interact in society, So it's about changing the fabric of human interaction. So it's about governance, if I should simplify it, it's about governance. It's about we rule our organizations. It's about we build our organizations, So naturally, even centralized platforms can be governed in a more decentralized way. When, for example, you have some kind of a governance token, and all those decisions, for example, to list some token or maybe to provide some proof of reserves, have to be voted on, and the community votes, and the community can vote, for example, on some kind of reporting, for example, what the exchanges are starting to do now. They are starting to report their balances, to provide some Merkle tree of their balances, and it can be done through governance as well, So, and for example, some new trading instruments can be added to the platform, even to a centralized platform through governance, So I don't think that centralized exchanges have to go immediately, So I understand that it's not going to happen because probably we have some technical issues with decentralized exchanges, with DEXs. They're not so fast, and people want to trade fast. So this is the issue. But even if they don't go, they could use some other governance based on DAOs, based on some skin in the game mechanics. And I think that could be a very interesting direction of the development for centralized exchanges, because they're going to stay with us for a while. Yeah, we have to admit that, so they're not going to disappear on one day, but they have to be more like they have to be more transparent, in a way, and more like controllable, and the community has to have some kind of control. What kind of control did like FTX community have over FTX? There was none, the same with Binance, actually, despite there is some like governance with BNB, so, but FTT was, I think, it was totally useless as a governance token. So there was no governance with FTT tokens. So, but why should an exchange like launch a token? It should be used in governance. Otherwise, it's not a utility token, actually. Basically, they're breaking some like rules that were somehow like outlined by ACC, that it's okay to launch a utility token. So if you are like promising to buy back the token with the profits from fees, so it's not a utility token anymore. It's a security token. So you're issuing a security. Can be a utility token if it is for governance. So I think that this is the right direction for centralized exchanges to consider, at least.
I completely agree, and it is quite ironic. I feel like we're not going to be moving over to completely DeFi for quite a while, because, as you mentioned, slow, and there's still a lot of developments to be done, but they could see more of this governance structures, more decentralized governance sort of input in certain ways into these exchanges that are more centralized. I don't know if Uniswap is considered a good example, but from what I understand, they have a governance token that can be used. But I feel like where DAOs are at right now, there's not a lot of functionality that's built in to having structure around governance and the future of internet organizations being decentralized. I feel like there's a lot of functionality that's going to need to be built into that. Now, with the PowerDAO governance that Waves is building, is that going to be used specifically for the Waves protocol, or will that be able to be implemented into other entities, and how will that work?
We are trying to create a very low-level generic protocol. It's not about Waves at all. So it's going to be built on Waves, but probably can be built also on Ethereum. So it's actually more about the model than some like particular execution or realization of it. So the idea is basically very simple. I described it. You have to stake some tokens to participate in governance. If you are successful, you get more tokens. If you are not successful, basically, if like there is some like KPIs that have to be met, if they are not met, you are being slashed. So you lose money. It's a very simple idea, actually. It's something similar to Futarkey, which was a concept quite popular in Ethereum community maybe like several years ago, but it had some like dependence on what's it called, prediction markets. So it was like a prediction markets idea, and prediction markets have their own issues. So it wasn't really launched on Ethereum. So maybe it's somehow like it's a twist of the same idea. I think it's much more practical. And as I said, the idea is to create a very low level protocol like Bitcoin, but for governance. So it's a really low level. So it's not some kind of like defined framework of governance. It's something very low level on which you should build different applications that can be actually applied to anything. Basically, it's not even about crypto. You can, for example, run a charity using PowerDAO, or maybe some like real world organization or a company. That's the idea. The idea is to create something within crypto which can be used for crypto projects first, and then try to reach out like to real world and try to apply it to real world scenarios. That would be awesome, because I think it's very important for mass adoption when crypto, tries to do something in the real world. So that's why we have this mass adoption, when we can actually run some DAOs that are not focusing on crypto. For example, some kind of like research DAO or charity DAO, and it's not about crypto, it's about real world, and I think DAOs can be really big. I think these DAOs are the next big thing. They should be the next big thing. If crypto, if crypto doesn't go down completely, after all those debacles, DAOs should be the next big thing because I don't see any other direction. So probably there can be some scalability improvements that can be a game changer. But in terms of applications, I think DAOs are the most important and the most promising ones.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that growth there. And you're completely right that this technology should be used outside of cryptocurrency, and because it will have a lot of benefits. But I feel like there are a lot of barriers to entry in the same way that, and these can be overcome, but in the same way that not millions of people are getting into Web3 because of the wallet infrastructure or some technical steps that they need to follow. I feel like DAOs can be a lot more technical than running a centralized organization where some of the smartest one person makes all the decisions. When you need to involve a lot of other people and have these mechanisms that bring like equal participation, there's like processes that become complicated. So you mentioned there a few times about the economics of it, and making sure that it's designed in a way that people can't game the system for their personal benefit, and if they do, they get hurt personally. Financially, they have stake in the game. So if they try to go against the system, it doesn't work for them. That's obviously important. But what about the next step beyond that, and the usability, the functionality of it, making it easy to use and not so much harder than a centralized version of it?
I think actually it's from like practical perspective, it shouldn't be too difficult. Basically, you have some kind of some kind of Reddit when there is some proposal and people vote for it, for or against it, and there is some algorithm that basically counts the votes, and there is also some like KPI tracking mechanism that rewards or slashes people. So it's not so complicated, It's like maybe there is some like a barrier of understanding here, because those structures probably are not so widespread in real world. But you have some structures, like that in real world, So cooperatives work like that. So there is some structure that actually already exists and that are somehow similar to DAOs. So I think that it shouldn't be too difficult for people because people are somehow used to voting. But the current voting structures probably are not fair in the real world, So they like pretend to be fair when like everybody can participate and such, But at the end of the day, they are somehow unfair. There's always some kind of like control baked into them, So you can, for example, you can incentivize people to vote, as it is often the case in crypto. For example, there is some like projects that are built on top of Curve protocol, which pay people to vote for pools on Curve. It's like, and they don't like they're not trying to hide it. Like they're called like bribe protocols or something like that. So when you just pay people to vote for your pool on Curve, so it's more or less the same actually exists in the real world, So people are used to voting, but probably they don't have the right voting architecture they can use, So the trick is to come up with the right structure of decision-making process for people, because I think it's like it's a mechanism that we haven't really come up with yet, So we haven't found the right mechanism, the right architecture for decision making, and maybe we just don't understand that, because we just like in democracy everybody can vote, but each vote is equal, So you can basically say that like your vote counts as like 10 my votes. But it's not clear if this is like the right structure, So probably we can work on that, and crypto and blockchain technology can help us. It can make things possible that were impossible without blockchain, and only with emergence of blockchain tech, we can really create those things, those architectures in the real world. So I think that it can be huge, and we can, like, maybe in several years, maybe in 10 years, we can have like huge DAOs, like huge decentralized organizations with like trillions of dollars in them, So, and it will become a game changer, because when you have like $1 trillion in a DAO, probably, it has a treasury with value more than some GDPs of some countries, probably it can become some kind of like a decentralized state, more or less, So you will have to, and you will have to understand that those organizations are very important. There is like a lot of people involved, maybe like hundreds of millions of people participating. So you won't be able just to discount them as something niche and not important. They will matter. So if blockchain technology develops in the right direction, and it achieves scalability, and we come up with like proper governance models, we will have those DAOs with millions of participants in them, and they can like rival national states. They can become like a decentralized states in their own right. So it can be huge.
I completely agree. It can be huge, and I feel like the voting process, especially in governments, could definitely be overhauled with this kind of technology and improve upon it. And the American midterms were happening this week as well. They sort of got overshadowed by all the crazy cryptocurrency debacles that happened. But that there's always some issues in certain states on voting, and it's not very transparent at all. And I feel like this technology would be a great solution to solve those problems. And one day, after we get through the crypto adoption, the charity adoption, governments will be there eventually in line to adopt this technology. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it grows out. Sasha, what is the sort of the roadmap and the next steps for growing the PowerDAO and getting it out in the first use cases for crypto companies and to charities?
Yeah, basically, so what we're gonna do now, so there's gonna be some kind of airdrop, so there's not gonna be any kind of IDO or ICO, so we'll drop the token, because the token supply should be limited, because this is some kind of like a limited resource. The same idea as in Bitcoin or in any blockchain consensus. You have to possess a limited resource to participate in consensus. And the same idea works here, so you have to have this power token to vote, to participate in governance, but it has to be like limited in supply. So there's going to be an airdrop, and there's not going to be any tokens issued in future. So we'll do this airdrop soon, and after that we will make some like first DAOs built on Waves, specifically for Waves products. This is going to be like Waves Investment DAO and Waves Community DAO, which distributes grants to Waves-based projects. And maybe we will build some kind of a charity DAO, just to show how people can use the technology. And then we will try to incentivize emergence of other types of DAOs, charities, research, maybe some like DAOs that work on other chains, not only on Waves. But our goal is just to like create a couple examples, a couple like template DAOs for people to copy, So, and they will be dedicated to Waves, because we actually have a lot of things on Waves that we should launch, and we have a lot of ideas to develop. So yeah, first DAOs will be dedicated to Waves projects, investment DAO, where people can invest in projects based on Waves and can basically vote which projects actually receive the funds, and there's going to be some kind of like grants DAO that just distributes grants. So this is like the first step.
Very cool. Looking forward to that. And with that airdrop and following along with the growth of PowerDAO, what is the best way for people to follow along and learn more about that?
Yeah, just subscribe to our social channels, to my Twitter, to Waves Twitter. So There's like a lot of things that are going on in and around waves, and as you know, so many crazy things are happening. So everybody was somehow like affected by the situation, but I'm pretty confident that everything's going to be fine, and it's a very good moment actually for new people to come to crypto, because it's some kind of like a breaking point, I guess. So crypto will never be the same because now we understood that we have to basically get rid of this centralization and try and start like launching truly decentralized projects. So, and we understand that probably centralized exchanges won't exist forever. If we want crypto to prosper, sooner or later they have to go. Maybe it will happen maybe 5 or 10 years. But if we want crypto to be like important, if we want crypto to matter really, sooner or later, all the crypto infrastructure has to be decentralized as well. So we won't have centralized exchanges, and we won't have like custodial services. It all has to be decentralized. Otherwise, we will keep having the same issues. And it's becoming clear now because people didn't understand that, and I hope now more people understand that, and like important actors in crypto understand that we just can't go on like that, because what has been happening during the last 2 years, maybe a little more even, was pretty harmful for crypto development. We had too many VCs, and VCs are not good for crypto. All they care about is just making like quick profits, and that's it, and then just switching to another product at another project and making some more profit there. So this is not what we need. They don't advance the technology, and they're very harmful. And now people understand that. So I think we have to go through this phase, and we will become stronger, more resilient, and we actually now will be moving in the right direction.
Thank you so much for your time, Sasha, and your insights into the industry and the vision of a decentralized future. I'm really looking forward to it. I'll leave those links to the Waves Labs and Waves in Twitter and your Twitter as well for people to follow along with your updates in the description box below. And let's definitely follow up in the near future.
Thank you very much, Ashton. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye.